He
You hear
tweeted
my
out
5-year-old singing upstairs. Greetings, everybody, for the postmortem.
We're still alive, though.
Hey, you know, it's a good reminder that in the end of the 2021 season, lost 100-0 in the last 2 games and won 3 games for the 3rd straight year. So things have come a long way. And as someone mentioned on the board, there's like 120 other teams that would trade position, probably actually 125 that trade positions with Georgia Tech right now. So yeah, keep that in mind as you complain. But we're here to field your complaints today and talk about what's going on with the program. And I'll share maybe a few insights I've learned over the last 20 hours or so. I've been on the working the phone today, trying to find out what's going on. Obviously, had a bunch of OVs in. We're still working content up on those. Got a couple stories coming up on that, and trying to close out before signing day. And obviously, huge game coming up with the team to the east, as Alex is so eloquently alluding to in his thing.
I wanted to write more, but it wouldn't fit.
But yeah, so appreciate everybody joining us, and it's you know, disappointing night. I ran into a couple of y'all walking out of the stadium, going down to walking down to go do media, and you know, most of the people I talk to are pretty rational. They're just like, you know, there's a little that Charlie Brown thing. When's the football gonna go down? Denny KU is asking me to skip the bowl projections this week. Yeah, y'all should go check out. I should have contacted. Was it BetterHelp, the online mental health organization? Yeah, it's just tough, man. This reminds me a lot of some different seasons where things kind of went sideways at a weird time for the Jackets, and they played with fire all year and got burned twice in the last 3 games. Really, all 3 games, but I mean, yeah. So interesting. It feels a lot like there was a misfire with the defensive staff and the hires there, or there's something off with it. And part of the thing that I'll remind people of is the way that all went down when Tooch left to go to the Ravens. It all happened kind of after the main coaching period, where you would have changes and stuff. So that also limited the options in some ways. And Brent threw a lot of people he's buddies with, you know, and then the interview process was really impressed with Blake Gideon. Decided to roll the dice on a first-time defensive coordinator. And it's like I said at the beginning of the year, I thought you'd have a special season if you could get to the middle of the pack defensively. And, you know, they're in the bottom third or quarter of college football, and that's why you have 2 losses right now, and are going to have, you know, a tough road ahead this week, with Georgia coming to town, to the Benz. So, you know, the good news is Georgia's defense is also lousy. So I might bet the over. I haven't seen. Have you seen the over under for this one yet, Alex?
I hadn't ventured to look yet, but I'm sure it's probably in the low 60s, maybe.
So getting back to what I was talking about, when Brent hired Blake, there were not a ton of options. Everyone was already under contract for 2025. So that screwed things up. That was an unexpected opportunity that came for Tyler, and he wasn't going to stand in Tyler's way. Brown was really excited for him, actually. But it's going to be interesting. You know, it's clearly some things are not working. Your linebackers have regressed. Your safeties are regressed. Your defensive end strategy is not working. You need to probably be playing 3 big guys and a twitch end instead of 2 twitch ends and 2 D tackles, which is what Jess ran at Duke and kind of what they had last year with Sylvain, who was a bigger defensive end a lot of the time, and Josh Robinson, who was a bigger defensive end because those guys could actually set the edge. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, Brent is a guy who's not afraid to make changes and not afraid to tweak things. I think the biggest failing, if I were to put it on this, when you have a first-time defensive coordinator, is there's no one else on staff that's called defense at a college level on the staff. That's why you can't make changes. You can't do any of these things. There's no Charles Kelly. There's no Andy McCollum. Like when Paul fired out Grow midseason, there were guys there. I think you needed to have a mentor. They tried to apparently hire someone of that ilk to kind of be a mentor for Blake, but there just wasn't. That just didn't work out. And so you got a guy learning on the fly, and it's tough. And Blake's a really good dude, and I feel for him, and I hope he figures it out. And you know, maybe they play great down the stretch here, and it all works out. But I think it's going to be tough. And they ran into some physical teams. North Carolina is very physical. BC is extremely physical, always is, and Pitt is extremely physical. And it showed when you watched them. They were getting pushed around, and it was on both sides of the ball. The offense didn't play great either. The offense did nothing for an entire quarter. That really exacerbates all their problems defensively. And the defense, I thought, played well in the second half. They played well enough to win the game. They gave up 7 points in the second half. You know, Haynes spotted them 7 with the pick 6, and then they just didn't get it done on offense. And Haynes didn't play well, and a very big moment with all that hype on him. And it makes you kind of wonder about that too. Alex and I talked about this last night, but like, I mean, Haynes is doing a bajillion media things. Like they were rolling out all this hype for him. They had the Flyers. I don't have it with me. That I tweeted about. It was just, it was ugly, and I think everyone was pissed. And Brent was pissed last night. Brent's still pissed today. Like, and had to go put on his recruiting hat and try to get some big pieces for this class. But it's just tough, man. It was an all around loss. You can be mad about the defense, but at the end of the day, if you give up 28 points on defense in this age with a top, 15 offense, you should be able to win a game. But it was cool. They kept playing it. Justin makes a good point. They didn't quit. Like, I was literally at the point where I wanted to go, like, have a buddy as a suite on the same level as us, Steven. And I was, like, contemplating going over there and just, like, going to drink after the first quarter. Like, if it was going to stay that way. Like, if it had been, like, 56-7, Alex would have been having to go do the post game, and I'd have been, like, Ubering home or something.
I don't drink, but that game last night made me want to. Even Kelly after the game, he could tell I was down in the dumps because he's like, man, he's like, how you doing? It was rough. I don't know. It's like
it's squandered momentum too, man. Like,
yeah.
And that's I think the thing the fans are as much upset about as anything. It was the best atmosphere since 2009, probably in the stadium.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like all that last night was. It was special. It was a special atmosphere, and then to come out and lay an egg like that and get out 28 points is like it could not have gone worse. I don't know. It was rough, and it's hard to beat a good team. Pitt's pretty good. They're well coached. They do things the right way, and they can run the ball. And when you run yourself out of plays and guys doing the wrong things on defense, guys not playing, as a unit, you're going to pay for it. And they did several times. Ran out of lanes and linebackers missing unblocked tackles. And it was just a perfect recipe for a bad night at Bobby Dodd. But it happens. Got to bounce back this week. Got the biggest game of the year. As I said in my takeaway last night, it's my championship. It's a lot of people's championship, but no matter what else happens the rest of the year. So
there's some good news for you, Alex, here. Oh, wait a second. Sorry.
I was reading the wrong one.
Sorry, Joey. I'll get back to your thing. Saying they sent in Georgia's going to offer Alex after his tickets last week. The Yellow Jacket chant was awesome. The crowd was electric. It was cool that everybody stayed really until it was out of hand at the very end of the game. That Yellow Jacket chant was very cool. The vibe was cool. The tailgating scene was very cool on campus. The worst parking spot I've ever had at Georgia Tech. Same for Alex. In the deck we park in, it was like I got like the next to last spot in that thing almost. It was an awesome moment. It just feels like so much was just like it's so disappointing that they couldn't live up to the moment, I guess is the way to look at it on both sides. And Haynes has been responsible for so many Georgia Tech wins and just played his worst game since the Clemson game. So now it becomes for some people like Alex, it's a 1-game season. What happens on Friday? And that's going to be interesting. Like every one of these games with Brent has been super close with Kirby, even when they were way outmatched, at least for a half. The year with the third and fourth string quarterbacks, 22, was a game where they could have taken the lead in the first half if Dylan Leonard doesn't drop a touch. That would have been a touchdown probably. They had all the momentum in the game there. It's but yeah, the Georgia game in 09, VT, Wake Forest, those years, those were about the best crowds since then. Very curious about Friday night now and what that looks like. How's the crowd split playing in the Benz for basically a blood money game, for lack of better. I mean, not blood money, but like they had to do it financially, and so that sucks. And Pitt's playing well. You lose to Pitt. They've been a tough game. That was a little bit of revenge for Narduzzi for when Brent embarrassed him. I don't know if you guys remember, that was Brent's first win as a head coach, was up at Pittsburgh. And they embarrassed them. That was the highest they've been ranked in a long time that night, and went up there and beat them, forced a bunch of turnovers. So it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Someone's asking about the spread last year. I maybe could find that if you give me a minute.
I mean, it should be in my game preview, but I don't know with the from last year. I always put it in there.
Yeah,
I think they're about a 2 touchdown
since we switched over.
That's what not a you have to go through Google and type the right words in.
If I can,
I don't know what's going to happen Friday. I don't think anything that happened last night is like I don't feel any different of maybe we can beat Georgia, maybe we'll get killed. Like I don't think any different than I do after that result last night. They could come out and play well and win the game. They had the game won last year when we were 6-5 or whatever, 6-4. I don't know. My brain's not working right now.
It was 17.5 last year, the spread.
I thought it
was up to 19 at times last year. So,
but yeah, I mean they might come out and play well, and I mean, if anything from last night, it should be able to show the guys that you cannot come out and play like that in the first quarter. Like you just cannot do it in a big game, because even if you like they fought till the end, but like you spot a team 28 points. And it's very long odds to come back. They had a chance to cut it within one possession a couple of times. They did, and it's just like you got to play perfect from that point on. And I don't know, you can't do that. You especially can't do it against good teams. So maybe that was the lesson. They've had bad starts all year, mostly on the road, but I don't know. Yeah, you just can't do that against good teams.
Yeah, I mean, the pick six was the real backbreaker. Your defense is playing well, getting stops at that point. Well-ish. I mean, they were forcing punts, and which is what you wanted. And and you're right there at worst you get a field goal and cut it to 4, and instead you throw a pick 6 and you're back down 14, and that was it.
Well, it went to 20. It went to 21.
Sorry,
It would have been
yeah.
but I mean, you kick a field goal there and go down 11 or whatever it is, and I don't know.
10.
It was
11.
yeah. But even after that, Narduzzi, I don't know if I tweeted that out what he said about the fake punt. He just said I take responsibility for that. So he called himself a dummy. So
that was a Mario Cristobal level like screw up.
Yeah.
Like, it was unbelievable. Brent said 28's usually insurmountable for anyone. Which
I mean,
is true.
what was
All right, so hang on. I've answered this on Twitter. I've answered on the site multiple times. He got hurt on the first play, the first drive. I think they threw a screen to him, and he took a weird hit and was banged up the rest of the game and couldn't play. That's why Hulsley wasn't out. 99% of the time when you guys think there's like some conspiracy, somebody's in trouble, whatever, they're typically injured. There's the same crap with Bailey Stockton last week. Like, Bailey has been hurt for a good chunk of the season, played through it, and they rested him when they were able to. And, he was cleared medically to play, but as Brett said on Thursday, like, there's a difference between being cleared and being able to play. Like, but yeah, Trip. So I know people have been asking about Malachi and why he didn't play. And if you watched him, he didn't look like himself when he got the ball. They threw him a couple passes in space. They could not run vertically at all. They were trying to do everything horizontal. That was problematic, and it was just bad. The misfit on the 56-yard run, I think, that's the safety's guy, and the safety took himself out of the play. The safety's supposed to be the safety valve on that. They were blitzing, and he was out of position. He's got to tackle that dude or slow him down.
I think there was an unblocked linebacker that missed a tackle on that play too. So
no, they're not gaming the system. If you are cleared to play, you're cleared to play. You don't have to go on the injury report. It is as simple as that. The guys who are questionable are not cleared up until maybe Friday. So, like, Dean Patterson didn't get cleared until Friday, probably. He was on the injury report Thursday as questionable. He got cleared. Dre Fuller was moved to out on Saturday because he couldn't play. You guys, when we put up the thing on Thursday, that's not the final word on this. Those things still move around out of the game. It's not anyone gaming any system or whatever. It's just guys who are in the 2 deep that play have to be listed or not listed. And if they're not, then if they're cleared, then that's one thing. Like, Matt Alexander with the Guardian helmet, obviously what happened to him, he was cleared but couldn't play. Like, so that's different. Why did Tay Harris play 5 snaps? Because they moved him to nickel, like y'all asked for and wished for. He was playing like a nickel Sam, and they just didn't use that package at all. They kept Kelvin Hill on the field most of the game. So they actually moved him out of his spot. Then Jai Gilmore got hurt, who was playing safety in place of Clayton Powell-Lee. You had, at one point, Jai and Omar in the game. And then Jai broke something in his leg, I guess, because they put an air cast on him and carted him off. But yeah, they just don't have enough dudes. Like, and they've had some guys, 5 and 44 have had severe regressions this year. 9 hasn't been as good as I think people expect. He still makes plays from time to time, which is unlike some of the other guys. 2 has regressed tremendously from last year, the way he was playing at the end of last season on defense. And they're not good at the end spot right now. And I think that the end thing is a talent thing as much as anything. They get young talent, but they don't have any experience. And I don't understand the rotations, like why Bradford's playing so many snaps, but AJ Hoffler, who struggled, is playing 56 in a game or whatever, and why Bradford's playing like 20 or 10. There's a lot of stuff that I'm curious about, and I'm sure that I know that Brent is as well. And I imagine this will start to get sorted out as the season rolls along. As the off season rolls along. But let's see. I'm just pulling up. I haven't looked at the snaps actually yet today because I had a family thing.
Omar Daniels got something in the Boston College game last week too, so I'm sure he wasn't playing at full speed yesterday either. He played limited snaps too.
He was the top rated guy on PFF for this game, which is he was fine. I don't think he had a problem, but he played 58 of 69 snaps. So he played all but 9 snaps. I thought the corners played okay. It's hard. Like some of those passes they completed downfield were like 9-second routes, 8-second routes where Henschler just extended the play or they didn't get rush on him or whatever. You finally had sacks. They had 6 of them. It was the most sacks they've had against a ACC opponent probably forever in a game. But I think there's a twofold issue. They have a Jimmy's and Joe's problem, and there's clearly a coaching player development issue on defense, and they got to figure it out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but they tried to bench guys. They've tried to change different things, but I don't know.
Georgia line is right now it's 13-point dogs, and 59.5 is the total.
That's probably the bet. The close of that line's been a minute, I bet.
Yeah.
Probably since like 16 or something like that.
I would think so.
Oh, UNC 2021. Yeah, that was in the Benz, right? That was one of Jeff's signature wins. I
was there for that. That was one of the games I went to that year.
Was that Drake May? Or was that
I think that was Sam Howell.
Sam Howell, man.
Yeah.
I just remember they had him seeing like 20 guys on defense. It was weirdly like a well thought out game plan for that era.
Yeah, that was get your hopes up with Jeff Collins' game again, and then I don't think they won another game the
next week to somebody who sucked. Like, now I'm gonna have to look this up because it's gonna bother me. Hey, Jeff Collins is unemployed. They're still paying him, I think, for the rest of the year. I'm kidding. Don't get mad at me. Yeah, they beat Carolina and then lost to, ironically, Pitt, who ended up 11-3 that season. But they got smoked by Pitt in the next game, 52-21. That was when he couldn't ever win back-to-back games, Jeff. He never did at Tech. So
there wasn't a lot of wins. Wasn't a lot of wins. Period. It's hard to win back-to-back when you win. I don't know, six games in 3 years or whatever it was. Let's see here.
It feels a little bit like Narduzzi really was telling the truth when he said the Notre Dame game didn't matter. He said they put in some wrinkles. They had Haynes confused, like that goal line play where he threw the pick six. They showed a wrinkle to blitz that they had not done, where it was his own blitz, and the guy dropped and Haynes never saw him. Like it was a timing throw. The other one he threw that wasn't a pick six was literally just a terrible decision where he has to eat the football. Like he had Jamal open, he just threw it nowhere near him. It was like 5 yards behind him, like into a sea of Pitt defenders. There were like 3 different Pitt guys there.
He was running away from a guy, and he just kind of like faded and threw it off his back foot, and it was just way underthrown.
Run out of bounds or run it, like
yeah.
He was having an off day. I don't know why.
Narduzzi said something in his press conference at the end. I forgot to tweet it out, but like somebody asked him, and he said something this week about like going back to his Michigan State days and coaching the defense that way or something. He said something like, well, he was just like playing a game, like maybe Georgia Tech would go back and waste time watching film of when he was at Michigan State or something. So I don't know what that was all about, but it's one of their guys asked the question about it, and I'd missed that. I didn't know he said that this week about his Michigan State stuff, but I don't know if Georgia Tech staff went back and watched Michigan State tape. But He said Georgia Tech did a lot of different stuff they weren't really expecting. They just kind of adjusted and played well to it. He said Georgia Tech dropped back past a whole lot more, and
they got away from all the counter game and all that stuff because it wasn't working. They were blowing all that stuff up in the backfield. Yeah, I think Haynes King for Heisman is over unless something dramatic happens. As far as bowl games, if you beat Georgia, you're going to the Gator Bowl or the Pop-Tarts Bowl. If you lose to Georgia, it's really like kind of depends on what the bowl pods are. You could go anywhere from El Paso to San Diego to Orlando. Those are probably one of those three.
Yeah, 12-3 following a loss. I just looked that up. That's right.
And the other weird thing about Brent is he's like terrible as a favorite against the spread as a head coach. They've won a lot of the games, but he doesn't cover like ever. I think Temple as a favorite this year. Temple, Gardner Webb probably. I don't know what the hell is spread. Like that was a degenerate spread. Because we didn't even look at that. I don't think.
No, you had to go to a certain book.
You
to
had to
get
go to
that
like
spread.
like a real like shady like gambler guy, like somebody that has a payphone to get a line on that one.
All right, let me dive into these questions here.
Sure, I can answer this in the meantime. The decision to go forward on the fourth down on the second possession, down 7-0. I think he was just that spoke volumes about where he thought the defense was. He had no faith in them at that point and was seeing all the same stuff over and again. And so he decided to roll the dice there and go for it. They had played not well, and he was trying to jumpstart them. I didn't like the play call. I think you at least try to get the ball to the sticks, and that's how you go for it.
This question says, "What kind of effort did we get on Friday?"
Yeah, I ain't worried about that, man. Like, they're not going to not be up to play Georgia. That's like some pity fool fan BS. Like, to a woe is me fan stuff, man. Like, get your mind out of that. Like, I know people are upset they lost the game, but come on.
I think that if you're not motivated to play Georgia, I don't care if you're 9-2 or 2-9. That's one you can get up for, no matter what happened the previous week or the rest of the season. That's I think they'll be fine as far as energy.
I don't think they weren't up to play the game. I think the moment was too big for them. I think the pressure of everything that they had to play for, and Haynes putting pressure on himself to win the Heisman, to be this guy, got to everybody. That's my opinion about it. And Pitt did a really good job defensively of attacking what they do well and taking the run game out. They've been good at most this year, other than the Notre Dame game, at stopping the run all year. They were one of the top. It was the battle of wills going into the game we talked about last week. Number 9 rushing offense against the number 10 rushing defense, or vice versa, whichever one it was. 2 top 10 things going against each other.
It says this question is from Jay Wolf, one of our subscriber pick'em guys. How does Brent Key get these guys up to play number 4 Georgia in 5 days after essentially having your season goals ended? Well, I don't think the season goals are ended. It's more of a long shot now, but I mean,
if you beat Georgia and some things play out, you could still even be in at large in the playoffs. Like, they're not even out of that yet. Like, and if you beat Georgia convincingly, like that would be the most shocking thing. But think about the game last year. They had their foot on their throats in Athens. Like, if they hit a couple things, if Burr doesn't miss that field goal, like, that is a different game too. Like, that was close to being a blowout. So I think people need to like chill for a second and like have some rational thought about all of this. And I know it's hard. As Brent said, fan is short for fanatic. Like, I get it. Nobody's more disappointed than like, any of us. Like, this sucks for us. It's bad for business. Like, I was getting ready to run like a cool promo thing and all this for an ACC championship appearance. Like, we were as excited as anybody. I had all plans ready to go. I didn't realize that the power went off at the block party, and they had
I
to
didn't see
cancel it.
that tweet. I didn't see that tweet about them canceling the concert till during the game. I don't know why it didn't come up or whatever, but yeah, that was weird. Um, going back to the Georgia thing, we'll get a chance if that happens, they beat Georgia. The committee will get a chance to either go by what they said last week or change the rules again because they've been talking about head to head in Notre Dame and Miami. The guy said last week that they weren't close enough in the same tier for them to consider head to head. Well, if Georgia Tech beats Georgia, Georgia Tech moves up to I don't know 12-ish, 10-ish, wherever. Georgia falls down to 9 or 10. I would think they would be close enough tier wise to compare, and use head to
Georgia's
head
still
as
getting
a.
in, man. Let's not kid ourselves.
That's what
Like,
I'm saying. That's what I was telling somebody today at the basketball game. It was like that would be Georgia Tech beats Georgia, and Georgia still gets in, and Georgia Tech gets left out. I mean, that's what the committee would do. I have no doubt in my mind. But I mean, they would be just not going by exactly what they said last week about head to head and being in the same tier as far as rankings go. So
and those
they
guys are
just make their
basically
own rules.
politicians. Yeah.
They make their own rules as they go. They know they screwed up the first rankings with Miami was too low, and so every week they've kind of bumped them up just a little bit more. So
But like
it
Tennessee
is
could
what it
knock
is.
Vanderbilt out. You could have Utah's right on the edge. They should have lost to Kansas State. They somehow miraculously won. BYU's in a weird spot with UCF. Like, Auburn is DJ Durkin's coaching for his life. Like he could end up winning the game. I don't know. Like,
Well, I'm telling you, I've got Alabama fans in my family. They're scared to death of playing at Auburn because it's crazy things happen at Auburn. Like
Saban talks
Alabama has
about
not had very good
Saban
luck.
was scared playing there, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, if they lose, they're out. They're 10 right now, aren't they? 9 or 10, I can't remember. But yeah, a lot of stuff could play out. Like so, the season goals are not ended. Um, and beyond all that, if they beat Georgia, like I want to go to the playoff and stuff, but that's a pretty big deal. Like,
So
I
here's
mean,
my
that's
other thing. And I talked to a good friend about this earlier today. This big tech fan. There is a part of me that did not want to see this team with the way the defense is playing in the playoffs, out of fear that it would be like that TCU game from a couple of years ago where they got just boat raced, like by somebody. This is a good Georgia Tech team, not a great Georgia Tech team, and that's if you thought anything other than that, you were kidding yourself. It's like what was it, the '98 team, where they're deeply flawed on one side of the ball, and the offense has carried them a lot of the way. But like, if you face a really good team, it was likely to be a huge buzzsaw. I think Georgia's good. I think they're great. But I think if you had to face Ohio State or A&M or something right now, it would not be a remotely close game. So we'll see what happens. Tech's still alive in the ACC championship scenarios. I think.
that's what I was going to. Eric's question that
Go for it.
they need SMU, Virginia, and what's the one more? They need Pitt to beat Miami, Virginia to
Cal to
lose,
beat SMU, right?
and yeah, and Cal fired their coach a little while ago. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, they fired Justin Wilcox. They had a weird situation there with Ron Rivera, ghost shadow coaching the team, or trying to behind the scenes. It was an ugly situation where everyone knew Wilcox was getting fired, short of them winning like 10 games. So that was kind of obvious.
Virginia Tech though has owned Virginia in the past 2 decades. That like
25. It's 25 years. They were like
yeah
2 and 25, 2 and 23 or something against them. It's real bad.
So that I mean,
and they got an interim coach who's like coaching his last game there at VT. Like that's all bets are off in that. The one I think will be the hardest is the Cal game. Like I think whatever happens with SMU and Pitt, that could go. I mean, with Pitt, Miami could go either way. Cal over SMU is going to be the hardest of those. Straight Jacket's laying out the scenario. Here we go. Straight Jacket.
Whole lot of pluses in there.
Yeah, plus. I saw David Hale had this, like, he had to do like a screenshot from his notes app to get through the Georgia Tech one. But yeah, okay, but that's not Virginia Tech, who's been mediocre for like a decade. It's Georgia that won 2 national championships in like the last 7 years. Like, there's a big difference between UGA and Georgia's rivalry versus Virginia and Virginia Tech, who are two. Virginia actually has an advantage both financially and as the flagship school of the state, unlike Georgia Tech. It's an apples and oranges comparison. Georgia Tech is more like Virginia Tech in that scenario than the other way around.
I agree, William. It's UGA week. That's the only priority right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you get in the ACC, awesome. Like, I think you care about winning this game on Friday, and that's it.
There'll be a lot of red in that stadium. That
I guarantee. I know. Was it Rusty said that they were working on Georgia Tech? Your buddy Rusty Manziel said they were working on Georgia Tech on Friday because they had a big, tough Charlotte game this week against one of the 5 worst teams in the FBS as their warm up for Georgia Tech.
I took a gander over at the Georgia board. I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday, but they were talking about guys that were getting back to practice and just the arrogance of, there was people on there saying, oh, just save them for the playoffs. Like, they're just in the playoffs no matter what. Like, it's just, I don't know, it made me mad, but I guess I don't need to read that stuff. It can only do bad things for me, but I don't know. It would be great to win that game on Friday with probably a 70-30 Georgia crowd. Hopefully it's not that bad. I don't think it's going to be that
bad, man.
I mean, like the way the home games have been selling out, like I'm hoping it's closer to split middle, but we'll see. Let's see here. There's a question about Traylon Maddox. Is he in the doghouse from the BC fumble? He actually came in and played a few series in the first half. I think it was after Hosley got a little banged up. I don't think he's in the doghouse. I just think they have other running backs that they want to use, and they're all pretty even up there. I mean, Chad Alexander had a chance to make a huge play. King overthrew him. So
he overthrew Rivers too. He had him wide open early in the game.
So yeah, there were plays to be made.
And then Canyon had 2 drops that were pretty big. One was would have been a hard catch. The other one, the guy climbed on his back, which should have been PI, but they didn't call it, and Brent lost his mind on the sideline when that happened. I think that was a 4th down play, wasn't it? It was a turnover.
He had a comeback. He had a comeback route, and the guy was all over his back. But there was a whole lot of missed holding calls on the edge too in the first half last night. And I would be okay if they just got rid of holding altogether. Like, if you're not going to call it consistently, just let guys hold and get off the block. Like, I mean, if you're not going to call a hold, just allow that to happen. So we can all be on the same playing field. Reading through all this stuff. Let's get a question here. Got a whole lot of talking back and forth on these boards. Oh, I know one. I can't remember. I can't find it right now. But there was a question about the time not being put back on the clock.
I heard that TV commentator had a funny comment about that.
They had a weird explanation for it. But the question was about why didn't Brent make sure they put it? Well, that's what he was talking to the refs about during that before the kickoff when they got that 15-yard penalty. He was sitting there talking to them about the clock situation. I guess they gave him that same goofy answer that the guy said on TV, but I don't guess they put time back on the clock there.
They did not.
I don't know I don't know why they wouldn't. That would be a dead ball as soon as he breaks the plane. But I don't know. It ended up not mattering, but that would have been a pretty big 18 to 20 seconds, whatever it was. Oh. Let's see here. Okay, here's one about the offensive line stuff. Is there explain the logic behind the different combinations with Tana, Fusel, and Moore? Kind of use them interchangeably throughout the game instead of having a more consistent starters playing.
So, essentially, Joe's starting because he's a senior and they love him, and he's played kind of up and down all season. At left guard, he had a really rough day with pass blocking. They had issues at left guard and right tackle with pass pro yesterday, and at center too. They were getting really pushed around, so they kind of were fooling and messing around with Tana and Harrison. At center, Harrison did better. Tana had both of them had false start penalties at center. McKinney's been hurt at left tackle, so they've tried to kind of sub some dudes in there. I think Riggs played a little bit in the game.
He
I like
did.
in PFF. Yeah, they have it. There it is. He played. He actually played well when he was in there. The center thing just has not been right. You've had both those guys get hurt, and kind of working through it, and they just never kind of settled on one guy. Tana started, and Harrison started early in the year, and then Tana ended up starting after Harrison got hurt, and then kind of kept in there. But there were several low snaps that impacted King because. Or here's the thing: if he has to look up or down to get the ball, it changes his ability to read what's going on, especially if you're an RPO or you're throwing passes. So it's going to be it has been a little bit disappointing. Keelan's been very solid, and McKinney's been solid and healthy. He's been hurt the last couple of weeks, hasn't played as well. And then Harrison and Tana haven't lived up to, I think, the expectations for those guys yet, but they're still real young. So you got to kind of hold it. What stinks is Joe hasn't been as good as I think they hoped he would be. And so that's been a little bit of a problem. I thought Ben Galloway actually played pretty well. He came in and played some right tackle in the game for Malachi, who was struggling. Carney, I think Carney ends up replacing Keelan Rutledge next year, if I were to hazard a guess how this is all going to play out. And they end up with Josh Petty or someone else playing right tackle next year, or it's Ben Galloway or whoever, Riggs. One of those guys ends up playing right tackle next year.
Yeah, Riggs came in, I think, fourth quarter. Got McKinney came off like holding his arm or shoulder or something. I don't really know, but yeah, Riggs played left, and Galloway played some right tackle reserve. Here's a off the radar question, not related to Georgia Tech. It says, where is Lane Kiffin coaching next year? Since that's the hot topic these days around all college football.
I think LSU.
Or
he's staying at Ole Miss.
Well, that's what, like, the whole time all this stuff's been playing out, I was just thinking, like, Lane's just playing everybody. He's doing his Lane thing. He's going to end up staying at LSU, at Ole Miss. But the last few days, some more stuff's kind of come out. I'm leaning kind of the other way. I think he does make a change. I mean, they're all going to offer him a ton of money. So, but the difference is he kind of controls everything at Ole Miss, and the other two places that are in the mix for him, he's not going to have as much control as he does in Oxford. So, I don't know. They said announcements coming the day after the Egg Bowl, so we'll see.
Let's take a second here. Talk about Alex's favorite place to get Georgia Tech gear.
I hadn't thrown all my Georgia Tech stuff away from last night, so
That's good. Our friends, thanks to friends of Section 103 for sponsoring the Overreaction Sunday show. Get all your Georgia Tech gear needs. Get your Brent Key hoodie. Get all your stuff. Haynes King, North Avenue Trade School. Obviously, probably a little less demand on the Haynes King stuff today, but dude's still a legendary Tech player. You gotta love him, and he's won a lot of ball games for the Jackets. Thanks to our friend Section 103. Alex is a big fan, and they support Georgia Tech, so go support them. Tech stuff by Tech fans.
I saw a ton of Section 103 in the stands yesterday, and
A lot of the hoodies, the Brent Key hoodies, were very popular.
Some of the staff have some Section 103 hats and stuff they wear, so good stuff. Here's a question. It says, I don't recall seeing any RPO to the tight end that we run successfully all year. Any ideas? Well, they have. I know Beatham's caught a touchdown or two off of. I think both of those were RPOs.
They had one to him. King just overthrew it in the end
Yeah.
zone. They ended up, I think, scoring on that drive, but they had one dialed up. He just overthrew him. I think that was one of the ones that Canyon caught the nice ball on in the end zone.
They had one that in one of the goal line stops, or it might have been the one where he threw the pick six. They had one where they ran it to the short side of the field, and it was just covered, so he had to keep it and run. So, I mean, it's still in the playbook. They don't have the dynamic guy like Avery Boyd last year, where you could get him a short pass and he could take it 30, 40 yards. Harpring's kind of shown that at times, but he hadn't been consistent.
They had like no chemistry with him. They tried to target him a couple times. They were not. They just weren't on target. He struggled as well. Harpring when he played on. He was good in the run blocking, but struggled on his routes and kind of was out of the timing was, I think, on his end, not on Haynes' end. Actually, they missed times. Let's get. This is something you and I talked about last night. The subbing that allowed when you're trying to play quick tempo, the subbing that allowed Pitt to sub. This was driving me crazy as well watching the game. I don't know why they were doing that. Why you just got to play your base there or get into whatever you want to get into and then just roll with it. But I guess a couple of them were because they took shots downfield. But like I don't know. I thought it was waste. They did waste probably a minute or two of game time with that.
And every team knows now that they can kind of take advantage of that role, like to the nth degree of walking a guy off and on the field, and the ref's not gonna get out of the way. They're gonna let them sub, and if you got to take a timeout, you got to take a timeout. So
they've run hurry up offense. They've run a bunch. I mean, that's how they beat Clemson and a bunch of other people. Like I just it was weird. I didn't love it. I'm not sure what the thought was there.
There's a question on the board about Jeremy Pruitt. If he gets fully cleared, could you see him being on
he's on Charles Kelly's staff at Jacksonville State now. They worked out some kind of deal with NCAA where they are allowing him to work, but I guess it's like a very limited analyst role. He's got 5 more years or something of show cause. I think it's 29, 4 years left.
I think it was originally 28, but yeah,
it's a long time. That's Brent and Pruitt are very tight. Like if he could, he would hire him in heartbeat. I know that, but like he's still radioactive at the moment. But again, somebody like that would have helped Gideon to have a guy to bounce off of. The one that I brought up is the guy that was it Fran that brought him in, Don Brown, the former Michigan DC. Like he's like someone of that ilk. It's not O'Leary. You guys talking about O'Leary can barely walk. Like Ralph can barely walk. Those guys are not. That's a little too far down the line. But like it is not a bad idea to have someone to do that, to work with a younger coordinator or younger assistants or whatever. How do we? Okay.
Oh, you good?
Here you go, Alex. How do they win on Friday?
They gotta force a turnover or two, which has been very tough for this defense for some reason. 6 takeaways all year is kind of unbelievable. Like you'd think you'd luck into one, but you can't just let Gunner and their little stable of running backs, have long drives and control the clock, and because they will do it. So you gotta get some turnovers.
Georgia Tech is 111th in turnover margin this season, -6.
Yep. They
Because
just
there's no takeaways. It's not that there's a lot of turnovers. It's just no takeaways at all. Like only 6 this season.
Yep, not good. But yeah, I mean, you got to get back to running the ball. The whole thing for the last 2 years have been being physical, tough team, and last night they got away from that. They kind of went.
They got pushed around and Big Brothered. Like
I mean, they tried to do stuff in space. They tried to like get out on the edges, and I don't know. I think they shied away from that Pittsburgh defense that's been so good against the run. You got to at least try it and see if you can run it, and if you can't, then you make adjustments off of it. But they just really didn't really try to establish the run, and when you get down 28-0, it's hard to do that anyway. So,
and they had some bad luck too. I mean, they strip sacked Henschel, and he recovered his own ball. That was a big play in the game too, because they would have got the ball at the 38 or something like that on that drive if he does that. Like, so there were some different things there. What is the strategy for the portal? I mean, the defense, they don't need 11. They need about 15 new guys. Like again, that's the wrong way to look at this. You've got to build out your depth. So you need 4 or 5, you need like 5, 6 defensive linemen, including ends. You need a linebacker or 2. You need probably a safety or 2 and 2 corners. If it was me, that's what I would be looking at. Because there are some building blocks there. There are some decent pieces. You have a Montre Bradford, Dre Fuller, who are going to be good players. Christian Garrett, who they like. But the defensive tackle position is going to be a complete overhaul. And you got to upgrade. You got to get some more athletic linebackers. You need to continue to, like a guy like Cayman Spalding needs to be developed. He has this Charlie Thomas skill set of being able to run in a race and make plays. Got to develop that guy. You got to hopefully develop Lightsey more. He's still there. Tajay still there. Those guys need to be developed. And you got like Tay Harris and Savion, who they like, who played 1 snap on defense, I think, yesterday, and played on some special teams, but he's like slowly worked his way back after missing almost the entire season. Like, those are what you got to build around. So we'll see what happens. Everybody's very up on Jason Seymour, Coach Boogie. That's my boy. I love Jason. If that was the guy that Brent thinks, if he makes a change, I'd be happy to see Jason back. He's a buddy.
I think we lost Kelly.
Did you lose me?
I lost you there. You went black for a second and cut out.
Oh, okay. I was just talking about Coach Boogie, Jason Seymour. If someone asked about him.
There. We're back. Yeah, there's people talking about the blitz.
ACC, SEC matchup predictions. That's interesting. Louisville's playing like crap, but so is Kentucky. That's going to be like a struggle bowl. Florida State, Florida's anyone's guess. So Louisville's a 3.5-point favorite at home against Kentucky. South Carolina is a dog at Clemson's a dog at South Carolina. I like Clemson in that one. Florida's a 2.5 point. This shows you like SEC bias, right? Like Florida's somehow a 2.5 point favorite against Florida State. They're both terrible. And then you got Tech and Georgia. The Georgia Tech game is the hardest game out of all of those for the ACC. Shane really needs that Clemson game to take the heat off of him. You don't know what Kentucky's doing. I heard they have the money to fire Stoops. I don't know where that's at. I don't know if they have an appetite to jump into this. But it would be very funny. The most ACC thing ever would be for them to sweep them, because that would just totally undercut the playoff committee people. They'd have to like start spinning like hell to get
That
them
would
to.
turn that would quickly turn into quality losses for the SEC,
Oh
though.
yeah, it's a little bit quality. I mean, it's a rivalry game. All bets are off in a rivalry game, Alex. Don't you know
That's
that?
right. That's right. We don't worry about conference affiliation. We just rank the teams based on their resume.
This is a tough question because I like Kyle. Kyle seems to have regressed in whatever's going on with the defense, and he is a guy with a certain skill set that you have to strategize towards, and asking him to do things outside of that is a mistake of coaching, in my opinion. Like, you can't ask people to do things they cannot physically do. He is not a guy that covers well in space. Don't expect him to do that. He is see ball, run downhill, get tackle. That is what Kyle is. And I think that I think a lot of what's going on too is like confidence in those guys' heads, man. They're like taking themselves out of plays, taking the wrong angle, going on the inside angle of the shoulder of a defensive player when they should bounce it outside. I don't know. I'm not putting money on it going 4-0, by the way, but it would be very funny.
That'd be a bad day for the SEC. There's a question about recruiting.
Well, I'll pray for it.
Predictions for high school recruiting class rank. They're 50, high 40s, 50 right now. If they get some of the targets they want, I can see them moving up to maybe high end, like low 20s, 30-ish. But it's all a guessing game right now. We'll know more in the next week and a half. I got a couple guys I'm chatting with back and forth in the last couple of hours that I'll have stories on here tonight or in the morning. But a lot of these guys are taking it up to signing day. They're going to commit on signing day. So it should make for a more interesting one than last year when everything was pretty much done, except for the Josh Petty drama that people were worried about.
I'll ask Chad. Chad has his contract. Chad did not put his buyout. He put what it would cost him to leave Tech, but not the Georgia Tech part of his buyout. I'm going to guess that it's not 100% guaranteed, but I don't know that to be true. He had a 3-year deal worth $3 million. If it is, it is. That's the cost of doing business sometimes, man. Anything else good in the?
Let's see. There was a question about the script for the first series. Were we surprised that the opening script for the first offensive possession was to get it to Jamal Haynes 3 plays in a row?
I don't know. Let's answer this though. Why are guys waiting longer? Is it NIL negotiations? No. What it is schools don't want these kids announcing, because what happens is if someone announces for Georgia Tech, like right now, 2 weeks before signing day, then a bunch of copycat schools will come in and try to bid them up before signing day. So essentially what you're trying to do is to not start that up. So like most of the kids that Alex and I have talked to in the last few days are pushing it back to make it where those guys announce on signing day. So there's no weird push at the end by somebody weird that like just had a coaching change or has extra money because he got screwed by somebody or whatever. It's why I kept telling all you guys, they kept Shane Marshall quiet last year because Georgia was trying to flip him and a couple other schools. They kept Peyton Joseph quiet. They kept a bunch of guys quiet in the last cycle that were late flips because of that. That's why there'll be so much more movement. And there are silent commits right now. I'm not going to get into how many, but there are a couple that we've already been prepping stuff on. So we'll see what happens. Sorry.
There's a question about why was Galloway in at right tackle? He hasn't played right tackle all year. He
Yeah,
was the backup
he
right
has played right
tackle,
tackle. Yeah, he's been backup
and
right tackle since he got back from injury.
and Riggs moved over to left tackle to be the backup to McKinney because Riggs had played some right tackle earlier in the season.
Yeah, that was when Galloway was out with an injury. Galloway missed
Right.
like the first half of the season or something like that, but he's played 3 games. He played in the Syracuse game, NC State, and Pittsburgh at right tackle. He's played meaningful snaps in 3 games. They actually like him. Ben just got hurt. He was in the rotation at guard and tackle, and then he got hurt in camp, I think, and was shut down the first half of the season coming off of that.
He's big. He's as big. I don't know if he's as big as Carney, but he's pretty big and he moves a little bit better. Carney's just a big dude that a road
Not
grader.
quite that many tires.
Yeah.
10 5-stars would be that below like Texan Tire NIL budget.
Yeah. That would move him up in the top 10, I would think, from 50.
Yeah, it would. So this is a really interesting question that's off topic. Tripp's asking about Ole Miss. If they're still playoff worthy. You were on the call, didn't they? Did they talk about this on Tuesday? Because I know that Urich said that it would be like Florida State when Jordan Travis got hurt and they moved them down, that they would absolutely fall in the playoff rankings if Lane were to leave Ole Miss before the playoff.
Let's see. I'll pull up the transcript here.
Ole Miss is not Alabama or Georgia or whatever either. They're not getting the benefit of the doubt. There is still a hierarchy in the SEC too, and like how these things are viewed. I think if Alabama was in the same position for some reason, let's say a guy was going to the NFL, because that would be the only logical departure from Alabama or retiring. They're not going to slide, I don't think, that much. But like Ole Miss is a totally different program, especially with Lane, who's essentially the offensive coordinator. Charlie Weiss is technically, but it really is Lane's offense. Like it's his baby. So it is very different.
I went through searched Ole Miss in the transcript. He didn't talk about it specifically on there. It must have been on some other interview.
Yeah, I think maybe it was on that might have been like on a talk show.
That'd be pretty lousy deal for the players to get screwed by their coach leaving and have a chance at the playoff. But
I do hope he does. Somebody mentioned this in the chat, but I hope he does a hat show. I want him to do like a hat show and then like stay at Ole Miss, and that would be like the most chaotic outcome of all this. But I'm not holding my breath on that. Watch it like end up at Florida, because none of us are like everyone's saying it's LSU or Ole Miss.
I've made it to the bottom of the list. There's a question about with Jamal Haynes and Haynes King being seniors, how many impact players on defense could they land with the portal money that they use? Well, the portal money's gone. That's the one. I mean, they don't get portal money from guys coming off contracts. That portal money was used last year.
I guess he's assuming that you have the same budget year to year.
Right.
In the question, which is a huge. Hopefully, you want it to go up every year, right? I mean, yeah, but they're investing in expensive positions, right? Because you'll. So I mean, JJ Stone, Matt Alexander, all those guys were getting something too. So those guys come off, obviously, like even like 5. Some of those guys got money. Amari, you're getting a little bit of money back in all those places. They just got to invest well. They've been very hit and miss in the portal. Like Jai Gilmore was a good hit. But like Braden Manley, they spent money on and has struggled a little bit. So it'll be interesting.
Maybe
Joe Judge would be the interim coach, I think, at Ole Miss if Lane leaves. By the way, I think that's all set up.
Maybe JJ Vandenberg will set up an NIL fund through his new laundromat for defensive linemen for the future. Basketball question. What did I think of the game today? They were pretty bad in the first half, and they picked it up second half, played really well. Didn't turn the ball over. It was a tied game with 12 minutes left, and they kind of ran away from there. Big guys took over. They out-rebounded West Georgia by 20.
I mean, they should. I would think they would have had a huge height advantage.
West Georgia didn't have a whole lot of size. Both the big guys had double-doubles. Wasey made the big shots. He had 18 points. I don't know. They've won the games they're supposed to win, and they've lost the game they were expected to lose. So they'll be tested this weekend down in Florida. They get DePaul on Friday. I'm sure we'll be in a basketball mood on Friday night, depending on the win or the loss at the Benz. So
yeah, I don't know who's watching that. Like, I don't know.
I think that's the end of the list on the board. There's a whole lot of questions about the defense, but we've covered about as much of it as we can.
Yeah, that's too bad. Whoever won the power, was it the Powerball or the Mega Millions, whichever one that was a Tech fan. But so far, that person has not come forward as a big Tech fan. It was not Jared Hallis or like. If he won it, he was definitely playing it down when I saw him on Saturday before I walked into the stadium. Thinking ahead towards next year, I think there's be a drop off. Good keeping the offense. Buster can keep the offense humming. Yeah, I mean, Philo's his dude, man. He loves Philo. Like the offense has been geared towards Haynes King. It's not necessarily what Buster's like bread and butter is. So I think I'm not worried about it. There'll be more turnovers next year because Philo's gonna put the ball in danger a little more than Haynes does. But like he's also got a cannon and is gonna make some plays too, and probably some throws that Haynes can't make. So that'll be interesting. You know, the big thing, the biggest probably retention guy on offense to me right now is probably Isaiah Canyon. And keeping him in the fold, that's going to be probably one of the things they're going to have to invest in because despite him having some drops and stuff this year, he's really up to stock. And I'm sure that his people are going to be like putting feelers out in the market for him because he was a national recruit before he got hurt in high school. Will there be a war room this week? Probably. I'm working on it. Hoping so. It's hard with the holiday and the Friday game, but I hope so.
Oh man, we got a baseball.
Yeah, so I was telling Alex a story. I have a friend that has a friend that's a friend of mine's buddies with the GM in the major leagues, and he told my friend who's a big Tech guy that the Jackets infield is the best in college baseball, and if they don't go to Omaha, it would be a serious coaching failure. You know, unless there's like injuries or whatever. Like they have a team that should be 1 through 9 as good as anyone in college baseball this year. So if they get any kind of pitching, it'd be good. Jordan Carter's visit went very well. We'll have the updates on all that stuff on the board. I actually have some stuff that I'll share later on all that. But yeah, I'm already, to put it to you this way with baseball, like I've already started to plot out what it would look like if we have to go to cover Omaha. And like how that work, and someone who's retired might be getting called off the bench to go do some football camps. So you never know what's going to happen. So just stay tuned on all that as the baseball season progresses. Fingers crossed. I've always wanted to cover Omaha, and obviously Falix is a good cover, and he's got to go too. So
that would be fun. I'd be in the middle of an official visit to Surge too. So
yep.
So it'd be a good problem to have.
Yeah, I'm okay with that problem. We can go stay at my friend Jason's house, who lives between Omaha and Lincoln, and take the family cruiser up there.
Get the
Or
JOL
even Paul
RV.
Johnson. Yeah, the CPJ thing's still on my radar. Just always so much going on. We'll see what happens in the off season. Who do we see making a big? All right, that's an interesting question. We'll end on this. Who do you see making a huge sophomore jump next year for Georgia Tech?
I've got a couple names. I would say Jordan Allen's would make a pretty big jump. He'd have a bigger role in the offense than he has this year, and he's already made big plays with the few chances he's had. Defensively, I say Christian Garrett. I think he would.
He technically be a redshirt freshman, but second year guy.
Yeah. I mean, he showed flashes when he was playing early in the season, and he's very well thought of. So yeah, that'd be my offense and defensive guy.
I'll add Dre Fuller on the defensive side, and what the hell? Let's throw Josh Petty in there, who could end up being starting right tackle next year, even though some of y'all are convinced something else is going on. Tay Harris is another one too. Yeah, Tay definitely in there, but Dre, Tay, and Christian Garrett, and then Petty, maybe Shane Marshall, or Shane Marshall could be one.
I mean, Elgin Sessions too, but he's got the body for it. I think with more reps, I think he would get some opportunities at cornerback, in a position where they need a guy to kind of step up. So,
well, I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Hopefully, we will have a very different show next week, talking about a most Georgia Tech like improbable victory, or maybe Alex and I will both be drinking during the show. It'd be like when I did the Drinking with the Jackets podcast a while ago. Like, just have like a freaking bottle, a handle of some kind of whiskey, rearing back to take the edge off. But appreciate everybody. Keep your heads up, man. This is not a time to be down on what's going on. I know Alex is, and it was a bummer, man. I was thinking about my life choices driving home last night from Bobby Dodd Stadium. But the reality is, I think better days are ahead. Have some faith in Brent Key and what he's doing. And what's the good word, folks?
that's right.
We'll see you next week.